Hello, I'm Rabbi Moshe Smolkin, and I'm delighted to connect with you this day to share a little Torah. I want to thank Sinai Temple for giving us this opportunity. And as we embark on this little adventure, let's go ahead and begin with a blessing for Torah study. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Thank you, God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us this opportunity to delve into your Torah. So I'd like to begin with a story from the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was traveling on the road, and this founder of Hasidus was often asked to do various miracles for people. And there was a couple that desperately desired to have a child. They weren't able to, and they had tried for years, and they were so pained, and they really beseeched the Baal Shem Tov, please, please help us. And the Baal Shem Tov went into the upper realms to see what he could do. And he tried his very best, but he came down and he told the couple, I've tried. I really, there's not a lot that I can do here. And they said, please, please help us. And so he went back into the upper realms and he was able to shift things a little bit. He came back to the couple. He said, a year from now, you will have a child. And they were thrilled and they went away so happy. And that's when a divine voice came out of heaven saying to the Baal Shem Tov, because you have done this, because you have altered nature in such a way that's not permissible, you now will have no share in the world to come. And the Baal Shem Tov celebrated and danced. So this seems like a rather odd story. Why would the Baal Shem Tov be dancing when he's just been told that he has no share in the world to come? Seems a little strange. We're going to answer this story, but we're going to have a little bit of a journey through Jewish thought over time, over the centuries, and that'll help us see things from a different perspective. The teaching today is a wholly different relationship. And when I say a wholly different relationship, I mean both with holy, like entirely different relationship, and also holy, like kadosh, like holy. So we're going to start with a teaching from Martin Buber. Martin Buber in 1923 wrote what's now a very famous book, I and Thou is the English name, Ich und Du, in German. And this book sets up the world in these two different categories, ways of relating that we do as people. One way that we relate to the world is an I-it relationship. The I-it relationship, we see things as things. We see also people as things, and we interact with the world in a transactional way. What can I get from this relationship, this moment? Maybe you're watching this saying, what am I going to get from this teaching? We're trying to get something or we need something, even with people that we love dearly. I might ask my wife to, can I get some more water or something like that? I'm trying to maybe get something from it, even though I love her tremendously, but often, most often, we relate to people in I-it relationships. It's some kind of transaction. There's something in it maybe for us, or if there's not something for us, maybe we're not as interested in it at that moment, as opposed to an I-thou relationship. An I-thou, an I-you relationship is a relationship where I'm really connecting with you as a full human being, as a full person without ulterior motive. I'm just connecting with you, whoever the you is. Often it could be a person, a connection with the eyes where we look at each other and we're not relating to each other in an I-it. It's not about a transaction. It's just seeing you. I can also relate that way when I look at nature sometimes and I'm not trying to get anything out of it. I'm just seeing things. I'm having a relationship, let's say, with the Grand Canyon where I'm in awe and just taking that moment, or the I, you can be the holy you of God, the divine you, where we encounter God really as a you. So these two ways of relating to the world that Martin Buber sets out are I, it, and I, you, two different ways of being in the world. We have another Jewish philosopher in 1965, Rav Soloveitchik, very famously wrote The Lonely Man of Faith. And in The Lonely Man of Faith, in many ways, he continues Martin Buber's work. And he talks about Adam 1 and Adam 2. And he links these ideas of a human being, right? Adam, a human being, the first type of human being and the second type. It's really one human being, but relating to the world once again in two different ways. So, for example, he says that the first chapter of Genesis, Bereshit chapter 1, that's Adam 1, and the second chapter is about Adam 2. And the first one, Adam 1, wants to be number one. He's a maker, he's a doer. He goes and is trying to build up, to be successful, to conquer the world. That's Adam 1. He's focused once again on what does this do for me? How can I travel up the ladder of life? Seeing things kind of as a ladder, as a sense of growing, of succeeding. And then there's Adam 2. And Adam 2 isn't about necessarily succeeding. Rather, Adam 2, just like if there are two people, there's not just one person, but two people, they're in relationship. And Adam 2, these are ways you can remember Adam 1 wants to be number one, and Adam 2 wants to be in relationship with someone else, wants to be in relationship with nature, wants to be in relationship with God. Adam 2 isn't about just success, but connection for connection's sake. And so this is very similar in many ways to Martin Buber's I, it, and I, thou, except that perhaps Rav Soloveitchik focuses a little bit more where I, one, wants to be successful, is going, has a more of a directionality, and Adam 2 is more about relationship. So these ideas are again very similar, and they both show kind of these different ways of relating to the world. The first way in either case uh, is about utility. How can I use something? And I think this is very basic to human beings. I visited the La Brea Tar Pits recently with my family. It was very exciting. They're closing for renovations for a few years, and then hopefully they'll be open for the Olympics. But while I was there, it really struck me how people long, long time ago had to use everything they possibly could. So they used every part of the animal, and with this tar stuff, they needed to use that as well, and they would use it to um, make things more better for holding water or things like this or floating, different kinds of ways that they would use the tar. But they used every bit of the animal. It reminds me of how, if you've heard the term water skins, right? A water skin was, it sounds a little gross, but taking the skin of an animal and using it as a bag to carry things. Very famously, so if we think back to the Bar Kokhba revolt in Israel in 135 of the Common Era, the Bar Kokhba letters were found in a cave in a water skin, which had been kind of made from a sheep and was used. This idea that our ancestors had to look at the world and had to think about how can I use everything because I need to use everything in order to be able to survive. That's really that I, it, or perhaps that Adam 1 wanting to be number one way of seeing the world. But our ancestors also had other ways of seeing the world. And we can think about perhaps who later became King David, but initially he was just a shepherd boy, right? David was out there tending the sheep. And yes, there were things to do in terms of taking care of the sheep, but he also was spending a lot of time in nature and not just using nature, but also appreciating nature. And so, for example, we have Psalm 92, where the psalmist in Psalm 92, which is famous, we sing this on Shabbat, the psalmist will say, Magalu Masechaya, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, מה גדלו מעשיך, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. So, Magalu, how great are your works? How deep are your thoughts, O Lord? So, this kind of looking out at nature and just being in awe of nature was something that was also part of our ancestors' way of relating to the world, right? They could, if in some ways, have more of that I, thou, or more of that Adam, too, being in connection with nature as well. Not just how do we use it, what can I get from it, but just simply being with nature, connecting with nature. That's what David was able to do. And many of the Psalms speak about just how incredible the world we live in is. And you can think about another modern thinker, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, who spoke about radical amazement, looking around the world and having these moments of just awe, where again, it's not about me trying to get something, but it's me seeing, really seeing another person, seeing my spouse, and just wow, amazing, right? Looking out at nature, amazing. Noting various people, family, friends, uh, people out there on the street, perhaps art, music, different ways of relating where we're not necessarily trying to get something, but we're just hearing the music, seeing the paintings, having a moment of awe and appreciation, and perhaps lifting up our souls in a different way. And that's a little bit what we have on Shabbat. Sheshet yamim tavod v'asita et kol malachtecha v'yom hashvi'i Shabbat Adonai Elohecha. Right, 6 days you'll go and you'll do all your work, working, making, doing. My friend Debbie used to say about her daughter that she was always making, doing, right, going and being productive. Uh, and then we have Shabbat Vainafash. We have Shabbat where we take a break from all that and appreciate the world in a different way, connect to ourselves, to our loved ones, to God, in ways that maybe we can't do or we don't do as much during the week, although the rabbis try and slow us down even during the week. Judaism is very good about saying, take moments. The rabbis say you should say 100 blessings every day. I call those spiritual speed bumps to get us to slow down and appreciate. So even during the week, it's possible to have those moments of connection, but certainly built into Judaism in Shabbat itself to kind of go and pause. And we think about those moments when we pause, that balance between just being in awe versus what's this doing for me? What am I getting from this? We can also think about maybe another way of relating. This comes from the Rambam, from the Mishnah Torah in chapter 10 of Teshuvah. He speaks about ways of relating to God specifically. And he points out that there are different levels of relating to God. There's what he kind of refers to as a lower level, where my relationship with God is really about me, right? What am I going to get from this relationship with God? Am I going to get blessings? Am I going to do these mitzvot, these commandments? And because I do them, what am I going to get for it? I'll get little cookies and things like that. I don't know. Go up to, do I have a special place in Gan Eden, right? In the world to come, or I'm going to get certain blessings if I do this? Or alternatively, which we certainly don't want, am I going to do other things and get punished? And I don't want to get punished, right? But all of this thinking about whether I get blessings or whether I get punishments, the Rambam says that's found in the Torah. The Torah talks certainly about blessings we receive and punishments that we hopefully don't receive. And the Torah warns us or offers us these blessings, but the Rambam says that's a lower level of relating to God through blessings and punishments. And the Torah gives that to us, or gave it to our ancestors to kind of help us get connected with God. Perhaps it's like a little kid that's, what am I going to get dessert if I eat my vegetables? Right? So it's to help us get there, right? To help us get to do what we ought to be doing in the first place, but we have to dangle something in front of us to help motivate us. But that kind of motivation of reward and punishment, the Rambam says, that is kind of a lower level way of relating to God. And a higher level way of relating to God is more akin to doing a mitzvah because that's the right thing to do, because that's correct. This is the right way of relating to God or my fellow, uh, and so that's why I do it. Not It's not about me, but about doing it because it's correct. It's right. That's right. And this all can help us come back to the story of the Baal Shem Tov and why he celebrated when suddenly, after doing this thing and helping this couple, he was told by heaven that he doesn't have a share in the world to come and he celebrates. That seems radical. But Hasidus tells us that the Baal Shem Tov celebrated because, as the Baal Shem Tov said, he then felt that for sure anything that he was doing wasn't because he had an ulterior motive about him. His service of God was then going to be pure. He knew it wasn't about him. It wasn't about, I'm doing this mitzvah so that I could get something in return. I'm going to do this and I'm going to use God and get something for me, right? I'm not climbing up the ladder. I'm not doing this just for success. I'm just doing this because it's correct. And this is how I'm going to relate to people around me and to God. That's all. There's nothing for me whatsoever, said the Baal Shem Tov, right? And so that kind of thinking again, that opening different ways of relating, of being in the world, whether it's trying to open up and connect with others in an I-thou form, or whether, like Rav Soloveitchik, we're going and using kind of more of an Adam too and relating to other people, connecting with others. Or like Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, using radical amazement to just be in awe of this beautiful creation that God has set before us. These are different ways. And it's not for sure that we as regular people won't be a lot of the time in I-it relationships or in Adam 1 relationships because, once again, we're human beings. Going back to our ancestors and that way of thinking, it's important for us to survive. And if we have families, we want to make sure that they have what they need in terms of their material needs and things like that, food, shelter, water. So all of these are important and we must go and do that. And at the same time, in our relationship with God, we want to think about a wholly different way to relate. A holy like kadosh, and holy like with a W, entirely different way of relating to God, where it's not about us and what are we going to get from it, but it's about you, God, and connecting with you, being in awe, feeling that breath, that inspiration, that connection, and just appreciating. And so I want to conclude by wishing